Hey guys, I figured to get into the spirit of Halloween, I'd make a very terrible decision. Originally, I thought it would be a good idea to watch every Paranormal Activity film, so I could talk about them on here, and now with hindsight, I realize what a terrible decision that was. But needless to say, I followed through with it. I'll go ahead and add now that I'm going to be spoiling all 7 of the Paranormal Activity movies. Yeah, somehow there are 7 Paranormal Activity films. The sad thing is, I knew there were 7, because I looked it up before I started doing this video, and for whatever masochistic reason, I went through with watching all of them. Anyhow, let's start with the movie that started it all. A lot of starts. Paranormal Activity. If you're my age, or older than me, then you'll remember the craze that surrounded this film. It was literally everywhere and on every commercial that you saw. Back then, we used to all watch cable television. Kinda strange compared to today. But if you were around then, you'll definitely remember the trailers. For whatever reason, it was billed as the scariest movie ever. I mean, every single trailer was just people screaming and freaking the hell out in a movie theater. I still remember watching it for the first time. I was around 12 years old, and it really freaked me out. I was probably left afraid of the dark pretty badly for at least a couple months after watching it. I should add, I'm going to have to summarize these movies quite a bit in order to not make a 2-hour-long video on Paranormal Activity, and it's going to be the first time I've seen a lot of these movies. I gave up watching them after the 4th one. Turns out, even as a teenager, I wasn't prepared for what a mess that one was. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. The first film, Paranormal Activity, opens with text trying to state that it was a true story. It was something that a lot of films that came out around that time liked to do. Mostly found footage. They'd always have intros or endings that said based on a true story or inspired by real events. After that load of we get to meet the 2 main characters of the story, Katie and Micah. I still hate that name, it should just be Micah, but I think that's the guy's name in real life. They're bringing us into their life with the camera because Micah was inspired to try and film some of the ghostly activity happening in their home recently.
What is this?
I just like your feet. They're sexy.
I need to repaint my toenails.
Feet, huh? That's your thing? Kind of like a weird Tarantino-esque moment that I didn't expect in this film. After this introduction, the movie mostly takes place at night, filming them while they sleep. That, of course, is when all Paranormal Activity happens, at night. I should add that every Paranormal Activity movie progresses through the story in almost the exact same way. They don't really try to switch it up till maybe the last 2 or 3 films. It usually begins with terrible dialogue between characters, just trying to fill us in on why the hell they're filming and who they are. Then the ghost activity very slowly amps up throughout the story. Meanwhile, it's only affecting like maybe 1 or 2 of the characters, and then the others are very dismissive about the whole idea. Then, usually, towards the end, last 20-30 minutes, everyone starts to believe that this is happening, and then we get a terrible ending that never quite lives up to the hype that the movie's trying to push to us. They also usually all die at this point. I'm willing to just come out and say it now, every single one of these movies has a very stupid ending. Other than the last one. I kinda like that. So get ready for all that. Anyway, back to the first movie. We start off with night 1, which shows up on the screen in big bold text. For whatever reason, every movie states what night it is, what the date is, and we always have a timestamp in the corner of the screen. One thing that does bother me, especially in this movie, is how random the number of what night it is appears to be. It seems like when they sat down to edit this film together, they wanted to make it appear more realistic and not have just it slowly amping up every single night. So the editors are just like, yeah, let's just throw a random night on there. I know it was night 12 when this happened, but let's just make it night 15, I guess. I don't know why it bothered me as much as it did. Anyway, night 1 starts it off with a few spooky noises down the hallway. There's only 1 camera in this movie, or 1 camera angle. It's pointed into the hallway at the end of their bed. It appears this has been going on longer than they let on in the beginning, though, because the next day they have a psychic come over, and he really doesn't say anything other than not to antagonize or try to communicate with it, because it's probably not a ghost. It's a demon or something. Just before leaving, he even gives them a number to some demonologist that he knows that he thinks could help them. Of course, our guy Micah, he really isn't the careful type in this movie. He's honestly kind of an antagonist throughout the entire film. He ignores every bit of the advice the guy gave him, and it's actually funny. Thank God for Micah. He makes this film what it is. I'm sure for a first watch he's really frustrating, but I've seen this movie multiple times, so I enjoy the chaos. What can I say?
Later. What a fruit.
Do you think you could try not to be completely rude to him?
Different times, I suppose. I should mention that the psychic specifically told them not to get a Ouija board to communicate with it. What do you think Micah does? After that, we cut to night 3. This consists of more spooky noises, but this time the door kind of moves. Guess that's a little spooky. The next morning, we get a scene where Mika checks I hate that name, it sucks. He goes and checks the footage and shows Katie the door. She seems notably less excited about the whole thing than Mika, though. I can't really blame the guy, because if I had a girlfriend who had, like, some weird thing haunting her, I'd probably do the same thing. I'd be trying to film it and antagonize it because I don't really believe in the whole subject. He does act really stupid later on, so I can't go as far as to say I'd act just like him. Night 5, things start to get a little more creepy, where we see Katie suddenly awaken from what appears to be a nightmare, and then we hear a really loud bang. They really strangely just play it off like it's nothing, though. And the next day when Mika reviews the footage, he even gets some strange EVPs of a weird demonic voice talking in a different language. After hearing a really spooky, loud noise throughout your house and getting creepy voices on film, our Chad, Mika, decides the best course of action is just to try to take on the demon.
Hey, we haven't had anything interesting happen in a while. You scared?
Put the camera away. We're going to bed.
Go
Come
back
on.
to sleep.
Come
Go
on.
back to sleep.
Hey, don't
What
antagonize.
you got? Calling you out.
Hey, that's enough. Mika.
Your demon's worthless. You're worthless.
Like I said earlier, he's a very funny guy. Of course, after calling out the demon, we head to night 13, and at this point we've progressed to footsteps walking around their house at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's not all, though. We get a really oh shit moment. Now, I'm a pretty skeptical guy. At this point, if I heard that throughout my house at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd be calling a demonologist, a priest, the whole Catholic Church, but no, they don't see anything wrong with it. Mika is honestly a unit. He's just like pretty much peak masculinity, the embodiment of it in 2006.
You know, that kind of stuff didn't happen when before the camera.
Oh,
getting
that
worse.
has nothing to do with it. Like, it wasn't that bad. It was, like, a little loud. It was my inner child being scared. I'm fine. Thanks.
Things don't really amp up, nor do we get any real activity until night 15, when Katie decides to... I'll just show you. She does this in the middle of the night. And not only does she just stare at him, she also goes and just sits outside, and when he tries to confront her and bring her back inside, she's just in this strange state where she doesn't want to talk to him. The next day, Mika looks at the footage, and what do you think he does after seeing his girlfriend act like a psychopath? Does he call a priest, a demonologist, the cops? Does he act like a normal person and burn the house down and leave? He gets a Ouija board. And not only does he get the Ouija board, he's like, "Hey, demon, you're a come at me." It's brilliant. I love it. But what the hell?
What the hell are you doing, Mika?
Come on, help me.
What are you doing?
I'm gonna talk to it.
Promise me you weren't gonna mess with that stuff.
No. I promised you I wasn't gonna buy a Ouija board.
Oh,
I didn't buy a
Mika,
Ouija
you
board.
knew exactly what I meant.
I borrowed a
How
Ouija
dare
board.
you? What do? You go out and you get the best looking fucking Ouija board I've ever seen and you put it in the middle of our living room?
After arguing over the Ouija board, since Katie told him not to get it over and over again, they go on a date for a while. During the date, we see the Ouija board just moving on its own, because he left the camera on, I know. Then it just suddenly combusts out of nowhere. When they get back home and Mika sees that his Ouija board caught on fire, he's having an absolute blast, showing Katie like, "Oh, look at this, and she's not having any of it. She's very angry. So we get this funny moment of him apologizing.
I swear to abide by Katie's rules and regulations of camera use and to not offend this entity or whatever it is in any way, shape, or form. So help me God.
After everything that's happened, they still haven't called the demonologist. They haven't done literally anything to protect themselves. Even with Katie constantly begging him to do something about it, like, "Hey, we should call the demonologist. Hey, we should call the demonologist. Hey, we should call somebody." It still doesn't happen. Instead, he's just like, "Nah, babe, this is my house. I'm your boyfriend. I can handle this." His plan? He just puts baby powder down the hallway to see if he can catch the demon walking through and get footprints. I don't know what the plan is there. How's that meant? Mika. Oh, he gets what he wants, and we see footprints leading down the hallway to their bed, where they don't turn back around, they just stop there, which is actually kind of scary. Spookier stuff kind of ends up happening. They go upstairs into the attic and find this picture of Katie and her sister when they were children that's burnt on the edges. Katie explains that her house when she was a child burnt to the ground, and that picture should have been in that burnt house. How the hell did it get in your attic? A little scary. If you were thinking that Mika would continue to make things worse at this point, though, no, it's not gonna happen. We finally see some reason. The problem, though, when they call the demonologist, it turns out the guy's on a break or not there or something. I mean, there's probably demonologists everywhere, but yeah. They call the psychic back and he can't get there till tomorrow. This leads us to night 18, and it's here where things really amp way the up. It starts off as usual with booming footsteps coming down the hallway, the lights turning off or on. Then we get this. It was during this moment where I began to think about how strange it is that Mika doesn't sleep closest to his door. Maybe that's a weird thing about me, especially if you have a demon in your house. You think that the dude would sleep closer to the door by the demon and not let his girlfriend do it. I don't know. Maybe I'm a good old French boy and I'm all chivalrous. I'm not actually French. I think the whole idea of chivalry and like knighthood are French things. I think. It's like their culture. The day that they're waiting for the psychic to come, things start happening in broad daylight, which is freaky.
What is that? What the hell? How come my face is scratched and yours isn't?
I feel it. I feel it breathing on me.
Anyway, the psychic finally shows up at some point, and when he gets there, he is somehow with his psychic abilities like, oh, this isn't good. He gets freaked out, and he's just like, I think I'm making things worse by being here. So he pretty much just tells them, hey, you guys are good luck. I gotta go. Bye. And heads out, leaving them to their own devices. Now that it's night 19, I have no idea how these two are just sleeping in the bed, just perfectly fine. Dark, door open. You're crazy? But they're doing it. The demon pulls some shenanigans and pulls the cover off of one of them. That's really all that happens that night, I think. Then we get to night 20, where it gets worse, and the demon just straight up yanks the bitch out of bed and drags her down the hallway. So you think the characters would run for the hills even if the psychic told them that demons follow people and they don't haunt buildings? But if you just had your girlfriend yanked out of bed by an invisible creature and flung down the hallway, I'm getting out of there. I don't know. On the off chance it's not a demon, I'm leaving. For some reason though, Katie, who now has a strange bite on her leg, guess the demons like possessed her because she's just telling Mika, no, we shouldn't leave. It's fine. It'll be okay. No, it's okay, Mika. He goes with it. I'd be grabbing the by the neck and throwing her in the car and getting out of there, but not Mika. This is when he turns into a Now we've made it to the end of the film, the ending of the film. On night 21, the demon rips the covers off of Mika and Katie stares at him for a few hours. Before she walks downstairs, screams at the top of her lungs to bait Mika down there. After a long bout of silence, it finally breaks when we hear footsteps coming up the stairs. This ending is actually really fun compared to the other movies. I know I'm watching full of a ton of nostalgia with whatever they say rose-tinted glasses due to remembering the time that it came out. But I genuinely still really enjoy this movie. Still to this day, I remember how scared I got. Like, at the very end of the film, she looks at the camera with that creepy face, and it just cuts off. I really like that. Also, the fake message at the end of the film, even though we already knew about the Blair Witch Project, it just felt so real to me when I was a kid. I like it. It's a good movie. I wouldn't really call it scary anymore, but it is a good time. It holds up surprisingly well, too, compared to the other films. After watching it, I was kinda just left hoping that the other ones hold up as well as this one did. My expectations were never high for any of these films, even the first one, but they still managed to disappoint me pretty badly. A couple of them. There are some standouts here. Well, let's move on to the second movie in the franchise, Paranormal Activity 2. This film was rushed out fairly quickly after the first one, not even a year, I think. I think the storyline was very thrown together to try to tie all these films together, which started with the second one, and it's a much more linear, boring film. Characters also suck. I mean, you can't replace Mika. He's a one-of-a-kind kind of guy. With all that said, the movie begins with a family having a security system put into their house because they just had a break-in or something. It isn't talked about too much in this film, but the next film for some reason. It is rather strange that all the cameras that they have put into their house are all inside rather than outside, too. If I were having a security system put in, I wouldn't have them in my house. Unless it was, like, really encrypted. I wouldn't want people or the government or something being able to look into my house, but that's just me, I suppose. But it's where we get all of our spooky activity happening, is on the security cameras. There is a camera that they walk around with and talk with too, but it's mostly the security cameras. Not too long after meeting the family, we managed to see Katie, and here we learn that Katie is our mom of the story's sister, Christy. Meet Katie. So the films revolve around this family of Christy and Katie. Now that we have learned all that, the movie opens pretty similar to the first film, with Night 1 appearing on the screen and some half-assed nothing happening. It honestly starts off very, very, very slow. The characters don't have much charm, and it's boring. It takes a full 6 nights before we actually get anything scary happening, or something that truly could seem like a ghost. After that, the family's pretty well off and lives in California or something, just like the last one. I guess that ties into the story later on. But they have this Mexican maid lady, and after witnessing that, she starts blessing the house the next day. The father, for whatever reason, gets kind of pissed off at her and fires her for doing this. Then, now that the maid's been fired, really nothing happens. A bird flies into the window. It's not until like 30 full minutes into the movie that any character really gets freaked out or anything happens. After the mom gets all freaked out over this, we get a cool tie-in with the characters from the first film, where we even get to see Mika, which really points out that this movie takes place before the first film. The dad and Mika are talking about cameras and kind of making fun of Christy for thinking that the house is haunted. It's kind of silly. But I guess this is where Mika got the inspiration to have a camera in the first movie. Later that night, the ghost tries to randomly catch the entire house on fire, which is kind of interesting. Last movie, he just tried to catch a Ouija board on fire. That's quite a amp up compared to a bang or a bird hitting a window. A few nights later, the parents go out on a date, leaving the daughter, who's I guess only the daughter of the father, Christy's kid is the baby, but leaving her to watch the kid. The daughter gets locked out and then can't get back into the house. I guess the demon locked the doors. The baby is left in there alone, and we get to see this happening. Anyway, the family gets back, and they're all pissed off at the daughter because she wasn't in the house. She tries to explain to them, like, hey guys, I just got locked out of the house by a demon, but they don't believe her at all, even though it's all on camera. The daughter even shows the father the camera footage of the door slamming shut, but for whatever the reason, doesn't go through there and be like, oh, what happened in the rest of the house, and see the floating baby. Due to this happening to her, she's like, oh, this is scary, and looks up online, Googling about demons and such.
Possibly a demon.
It has been said that if a human makes a bargain with a demon for wealth, power, or any other benefit, they must forfeit their firstborn male.
A few days later, we get one of the more memorable scenes from this film. I didn't really remember any of this film before watching it, other than this scene. They then try to create more storyline where the daughter explains to Christy that their family hasn't had a son since like the 1930s, and the demon is probably some demon that some like grandmother or great grandmother in her family made a deal with to give their firstborn son to for riches or something. I don't know, man. Skipping past a lot of really boring stuff, we make it to about an hour and 10 minutes into the movie. This is when things really start to happen. That night, we get the bassy sound that's been happening throughout all the scary scenes in these movies. The dog is like barking at the demon at the basement door, and we get to see the dog get its ass kicked by the demon. The family comes down and sees the dog all messed up and decide to rush it off to like an animal hospital, a vet or something. But it's just the daughter and the father leaving Christy at home alone with the baby. While she's left alone, the demon doesn't just stop at the dog. No, he goes after her too. And we actually get to see the demon just completely destroy her ass. Like, a while after this, we see her walking up the basement steps and into camera frame. Oh, weird too. She's slow and just I think she's possessed. The next day, the dad comes up to the daughter, of course, and he's like, hey, I have stuff I gotta do. I really gotta be somewhere. Christy's acting all sick and funny, so watch the kid for me. I'll be back soon, kiddo. Now we get a fun little tense 10 minutes where the daughter's left alone with Christy, and Christy's just acting like an absolute freak. The daughter notices some weird writing that's on the basement door, and even notices that Christy has like a bite mark on her leg or something, kind of like Katie did in the first film. This causes her to go and check the security footage where she sees Christy get f***ed up by the demon. And she shows her dad. Her dad's finally a believer now, and he's like, oh man, I messed up with the maid. We gotta bring her back. So the maid comes back and has this idea of how she can get the demon out of Christy, but it turns out in order to get the demon out of Christy, they have to give it to somebody else, which that's lame. That's not good magic, but that's what they do. They give it to Katie. This is a really hard part of the movie to follow too, because we get like, these movies are bad at cutting around randomly, kind of like a badly edited YouTube vlog or something. So they're hard to keep track of, and it's really exacerbated in the end of this movie, where for the last 20 minutes, it's just cut, crazy shit happening. It's hard to watch. It's mostly just jump cuts and shaky camera from here on. I'll try to sum it up like this. They give this potion to Christy so she stops being a demon or whatever. Then the power cuts out and starts flying everywhere and loud noises are happening while they're in night vision camera and screaming and shaky. I don't really know what happened. I don't have a clue. Then cuts to like a few days later and Christy's fine. But Katie comes over and she's like, hey guys, there's some really spooky things happening at my house. I'm kind of scared. We then see Katie leave the house and we get the intro to the first film, which is cool, I suppose. After the movie tells us that Mika died on October 8th, it cuts over to October 9th. The family's just at home enjoying their night. Nothing out of the ordinary happening, the demon stuff far behind them, until Katie shows up wearing the same clothing she was wearing in the last film, with blood all over her, looking like a weirdo. She just snaps the father's neck. Turns out the whole potion thing wasn't a good idea. She then goes upstairs and sees Christy with the baby and like force blasts her with magic out of the way, killing her, I suppose, and takes the baby and walks out. That's the end of the movie. Paranormal Activity 2. Sucks ass. I do understand what they wanted to do, giving a storyline to connect the films and possibly future films in the franchise. But it was really boring. And the ending was almost impossible to follow. It was just annoying, bad. It hurt to watch. The payoff is not there. Overall, it's a very forgettable second installment and a big disappointment now and probably when it came out. The sad part is I remember the next movie in the franchise a lot more than I did this one, and I understand why now. I have a hot take that this movie really didn't need to happen, and the film studio was just trying to cash in on the success of the first movie. I mean, how could you not, though? You made, like, I think they spent $15,000 to make that movie and made, like, $200 million. So, yeah, you gotta cash in when you gotta cash in. Enough of that, though. Let's move on to Paranormal Activity 3. Paranormal Activity 3 really tries to change things up, mostly with the time frame. Instead of being shot after the first or second film, it goes all the way back to the 1980s, the late 1980s, and revolves around Katie and Christy when they were children. This film begins with some scenes from the second one. I don't even want to talk about it. I guess it's supposedly on tapes or something that the family had kept. Kind of gets weird when you see what some of the tapes are. Anyway, the stepdad, he's like a tech nerd kind of guy for the 1980s. He has a lot of cameras and such because he films weddings and he's like a videographer, photographer kind of guy. The paranormal things in this movie also begin pretty early when we notice that Christy, the youngest daughter, starts to be a little weird. It mostly revolves around her imaginary friend, Toby. The reason why the whole like tapes being saved by the family is strange is because this is the third movie in a row where they mention having making a sex tape. I think they do in the second movie also. During the little sexcapade, an earthquake goes down. Later on, Dennis, the stepdad, he rewatches the tape of them about to sex. And he realizes that he caught something pretty spooky on camera. After seeing that, Dennis tries to show his lady friend, the mom. I don't know what her name is. She's just the mom. She doesn't really believe it, which goes on to prove my point. Due to her not believing it, he has a friend that I guess works with him, Randy. We like Randy. Randy watches it and he's like, oh, dude, you caught something here. So now Dennis and Randy believe that the house is haunted, and they set up cameras around the house so we can catch some evidence. With the new cameras around the house, mostly in their bedrooms, I noticed something that points to my what the hell moment in the first movie. Dennis is sleeping closer to the door, so it's not just me, and I just wanted to point that out. After all, I'm a pretty big Dennis supporter. He's one of the better characters in all these movies, too. We like Dennis. He actually might be the best character in all the movies. There's also that one autistic kid in the fourth film that I like. He cracks me up. Anyway, with the new cameras in the bedrooms, night one pops up on the screen because it has to. They are definitely keeping things consistent, so we'll give them that. The first night, like usual, is fairly tame. We just see Christy acting like a weirdo and talking to nothing, which is, I guess, scary in its own right. After seeing that, Dennis confronts her about it the next day.
I watched some of the tapes on the camera and I saw you talking to somebody late last night.
If you saw me talking to somebody, it'll be Toby.
Toby's your friend?
Yes. He's my friend.
Yeah, what do you guys talk about?
Secrets.
He's big?
Things slowly build up, and on night 5, the girls are out camping in the backyard, so it's just Dennis and the mom in the house alone. During that night, some scary things happen throughout the house, which causes Dennis to go outside and make sure, like, are the girls in the house? This leads to the mother experiencing some pretty spooky stuff, and she still denies all of it afterwards. One tough cookie. A while later, Randy comes back and helps Dennis set up more cameras. This one's pretty interesting because it's the 1980s and they have fairly limited technology. They set up this camera on a fan that they took apart so it can oscillate around the room, which adds a cool little spooky, like, turning effect. I like it. It's cool. It definitely has an ability to build some tension when you're expecting things to happen. After they build the camera contraption, not much happens other than this little moment between the mother and the daughter.
How about your friend Toby? Do you still talk to him?
Yeah.
You know you can tell me, right?
He told me not to talk about it. Why don't you just ask him yourself? Standing right next to you.
I don't see him.
He's there.
No thanks. Dennis and the mom go out on a date, and they have to have a babysitter watch the kids, and we get a few cool moments during this. When the babysitter goes and takes the sheet that just dropped behind her, back upstairs because she assumes one of the girls did it, she gets hit with a weird demonic force blast too, and freaks the hell out, going downstairs, just waiting for Dennis and the mom to return. When they get there, she's just gets the money and heads out. She's gone. The next day, Dennis and Randy are like, well, Dennis is like, hey, that was pretty weird that the babysitter left like that. Let's go back and watch the footage. They see what happened and they just think it's cool. Stuff doesn't get too serious though until Christy gets into an argument with Toby and pretty much is like, off, dude, I'm not doing what you say, which will surely play out well. The next day, after Christy confronts Toby, she's all sick. Dennis and the mom have to take her to the doctor, and Dennis calls Randy so he can babysit Katie during that. They go upstairs into the bathroom because Randy's a pushover and Katie talks him into playing Bloody Mary. This leads to some pretty crazy happening, like Randy getting scratched by the demon.
You okay?
Yeah,
Does it hurt?
No. I just scratched myself or something.
Did you hear that?
When Dennis gets back and notices all this happens, looks at the camera footage and such, the mom doesn't want to hear any of it. If I were Dennis here, I'd be doing much like what I'd do in the first movie if I were Mika, and I would grab that woman and forcefully make her sit down in front of the chair and watch it, because no, you don't just get a giant slash mark down your and flying on. No, you're watching this. I will knock you the You're watching this. I will murder you. I won't even let the demon do it. I will chain you to the chair and you're going to sit down and watch this. I'd be very adamant. You are not leaving this garage till you watch this. That is terrifying. How do people... these movies piss me off. They do. You'd be like, oh, okay, hon. I'm sorry. It's okay. You don't have to watch it. Fuck you. Scary stuff happens and the daughter like gets picked up by the hair by the demon and stuff. A while after the mom finally believes in it, when she has this moment in the kitchen. Due to the violent demon acting out and the mom finally believing, even though there's vast amounts of footage, Katie talks her, or Christy, the young one that has the demon in her or whatever, she talks the mom into leaving and going to their grandmother's house because they might be safer there. This really isn't the best idea though, because as soon as they get there on the first night, oh my god, it's over. After this freaky bitch is just looking behind him, he walks around the house looking for his wife and the kids. To no avail, really, though. He just sees a bunch of weird satanic stuff all over the house. This is pretty much just showing that the grandma's a witch and tied into all this somehow.
What the fuck?
After being chased inside by a bunch of weird, creepy old ladies, he watches his wife get killed, and then our boy Dennis ends up dying. Which is pretty sad. I didn't really want it to go down this way. I remembered it pretty well, though. Mostly the witches running after Dennis. That's a great moment. That was Paranormal Activity 3 though. 100% better than Paranormal Activity 2. In terms of scares, the characters, the story, the pacing. Even though I skipped past a bunch of things, it was still much better just at chugging along. The ending was kind of silly, but I do like that. I like when they don't try to be too serious. I had a pretty good time watching it too. And as I've said many times before, that's all I really care about when watching a movie. I like being able to laugh and have a good time. This movie definitely gave me more hope for the others in the franchise, even if I already knew I didn't like Paranormal Activity 4. What's crazy about me remembering Paranormal Activity 4 as being so dog-ass, it's terrible. It's not the worst movie in the franchise somehow. We're gonna be getting to that one in the future. Oh, there is one film in the franchise I almost couldn't finish. Let's not even talk about it for now. But I will be summarizing the fourth movie quite a bit because just talking about it will bring me down. I don't want to bloat the video out because of some really ass movies in the franchise. So with all that said, let's get started. Paranormal Activity 4. This one starts off like a few years after the second one. in 2011. We're now with a different family that seems entirely unrelated from the first 2 films or 3 films, and it's in Nevada now. I can't remember a single character's name in that movie. Somehow these movies are still very forgettable, even though I didn't watch them that long ago. Anyway, it starts off really slow, just like the second one, just introducing us to these families, until we meet the autistic little boy I was talking about. He's a creepy, weird, funky kid, and I like him. He's like moved in across the street, and he becomes friends with the son of the family. I think they call him Wyatt. That's the one I remember, Wyatt. They say his name a lot. We then get some strange teenage romantic talk that was really off-putting to me.
What the wow, dude. Alex, there's a boy in your castle.
He's the kid from across the street.
What are you doing here, man?
You okay? Take you home, okay?
Oh, thanks for cock-blocking me.
The neighbor kid starts coming over a lot and hanging out with Wyatt and even staying there for a while, I guess. His mom just moved there. She's busy or something. I don't really know why, but he's like living with him for a bit. The first real thing that happens, I mean, things are just strange as soon as the autistic kid gets there. I think it's best if I just show you.
Before I do this, I just want you to know that this is something that my computer does. When I show you this, don't like freak out or anything, because I didn't do it on purpose.
What do you mean, don't
per
freak
se.
Alex
Below your-
chat? Ben,
What?
you recorded our video chats?
Yeah, my computer automatically records all of my
You
websites.
can't do that.
What are you talking
It's a
about?
total invasion of privacy.
I didn't do it, my computer did.
And you recorded me sleeping?
Again, it was my computer, it didn't log
Oh
off.
my
It's
God,
nothing, it
what
has
do you-
nothing to do with, you think I just sit here and stare at it?
Yeah.
Trust me, in a minute you're gonna be thanking me that I recorded.
What is he doing?
Doesn't look like he's doing, he's getting into bed with you. Tell me that's not creepy. Are you not freaked out?
Yeah, I'm very freaked out.
You should be. That kid could have been. Look at him. Look at him.
He
Look
put
at
his
him.
hand on me.
He's trying to cop a feel.
Now, the only reason we know about this moment is because the weird, hey, don't cock block me kid, he's been filming the girl while she sleeps. 'Cause they're in a Skype call together or something. We then get to the part that I completely forgot about in this film, and that's the Xbox Connect. I forgot that this was a central focus in the film, since nobody even really used these, but I mean, Xbox 360s were massive at that time. A bunch of memories came flooding back after this, though.
Whoa.
Looks like he was looking at it, though. 'Cause
Yeah, no, I see.
I really don't know why you'd make this a central focus, like a focal point of the movie, but it's here. It really dates the movie. They do notice like a ghostly figure or something on the Xbox Connect, and nothing really happens for a long time. Probably got the most boring introduction, like first act out of all the films in the franchise. They do have a fairly interesting way of putting cameras in the house to film a bunch of stuff, like to film everything. They do that by having all the computers in the house film with their webcams all day, every day. I don't know what kind of computer back in 2011 would have enough storage to record day and night, but they got them. The first big moment happens when the girl gets left home alone for a while, and we get spooky, ghostly shenanigans happening, and then a chandelier just falls right in front of her. Of course, when the parents get there and they're like, what the hell happened? And she explains, hey, there's been all these ghost stuff happening. They don't listen. They do not listen. Who would have called that one? The script really just kind of writes itself. The characters, the girl and the friend-zoned kid, just look up online demon stuff and learn way too much about it from a simple Google search. Quite a while later, the 2 boys are being watched by her and run over to Robbie's house, the autistic kid. That's kind of mean, but he's weird. And then the girls look over there looking for him. She's like, hey, you guys can't be over there. And we run into Katie. Oh, big surprise. Who would have seen this one coming? It just confirms the suspicions that we had during the film. I mean, it has kind of been teased throughout. The next big thing, the mom's like cutting vegetables up in the kitchen, and we see the knife just fly to the ceiling. And that's teased for quite a while, and somehow nobody noticed a knife up on the ceiling for days. When it finally falls, the dad notices it, and it lands like right in front of him, and he's like, what the f***? The wife comes down, and she's like, hey brother, are you coming up to bed? Why are you just watching TV at 1 o'clock in the morning? And he's like, the knife, the knife, did you see that? And she's like, shut up, you idiot. He just moves past it. He's a dork. He's a real dork. If I had a knife fall in front of me in the kitchen, I'm not going to be like, but the knife. No, let's go. I'm out. I'm leaving. Goodbye. We then learn that Wyatt, the son, he's actually Hunter from the second movie, the stolen baby that was adopted off or something, even though throughout the film you're like, oh, Robbie's Hunter. No, Katie tries to abduct him a couple times. It doesn't really work until the ending of the film. Things kind of like really amp up. The daughter's like left home alone again. This happens a lot. And she gets stuck in the garage and the car kind of turns on. No, just, I'll show it to you. She backs out of the garage and is able to get out. The parents come home and they're like, what the happened? Why don't we have a garage door anymore? And they don't listen to her again. Of course. It's kind of wild too, because there's only like hundreds of hours of evidence of weird, spooky stuff happening throughout the house, but it's cool. It's cool. I really love that about these films. At one point, Katie finally tries to abduct Wyatt again, or Hunter, and the mom finally sees some demonic activity, but it's kind of too late because she just gets destroyed. Demon has a bad habit of just absolutely demolishing people. I think that the dad and the daughter were out having lunch or something because she almost died in the garage and he feels bad or something. Then the kid, the dorky kid who wants the daughter, he comes over looking for the family and can't find them. He's just like grabs a soda pop out of the fridge, goes upstairs, then starts looking on their camera. Katie does this. She snaps his neck, kills him. Then everybody else dies too, and Hunter gets taken. I don't really want to talk about it, but everybody dies. Paranormal Activity 4. Very, very boring. The plot of these movies is getting beyond stale at this point. Thank God that ends with the next film. I would have given up, I guarantee you that, because this movie, I don't even think it's worth discussing how I feel about it. So let's move on. Actually, I can't blame the people for putting these films out the way that they did. The way that these movies were just kind of printing money, just crazily printing money. Not a single one of these movies for the first 4 films cost more than $5 million to make. And every single one of them made more than 170 million. What's really surprising to me is how much these movies made, and they're rated R. You figure that PG-13 movies would be where they're like, I think that these could have been PG-13 movies. I think they kind of screwed themselves. Needless to say, these movies were really hit and miss for the first 4, but heading into Paranormal Activity 5, the marked ones, we get a pretty big change up. So the 5th installment of these movies made a lot less money. I'm sure that the 4th one really killed all that off. It was kind of the beginning of the end of the franchise. Paranormal Activity 5, the marked ones, has an entire new set of characters, completely unrelated to the first movies, whereas the 4th one, like, they have new characters, but Katie and them are still there. It is still revolving around witches and demons at this point, though. The movie centers around a Mexican kid. I can't remember his name. Let me look it up. Jesse. So Jesse is the main character and his friend Hector. Jesse and Hector. We got it. Good to go. They're like some Mexican folks just in Southern California. I don't know how this all tied in. Holy f***, this movie is hard to follow, though, so I can't promise you the best. This movie really takes the cutting around and jumping between random scenes to a completely new level, though. I guess they do it to make them feel more realistic, like I probably talked about earlier, but it kinda just gives me a headache 5 movies in. Skipping probably 20 minutes into the film, the characters start talking about how their neighbor downstairs is like a witch or something. They hear weird noises down there. All the cameras that they use throughout this film, I guess the boys, Hector and Jesse, got to film YouTube videos or something. I think they mentioned that in the movie, and they film dumb stuff until they decide to do a pretty creepy activity of voyeurism when they attach a GoPro to a wire and put it down their air vent, and we see their neighbors doing some weird witchy stuff while they're butt naked. I can't really show that. The part that really annoys me about this scene, though, is if you're gonna do something this weird, you shouldn't do it the way they do it. They're just fumbling around screaming at each other like, yeah, I know we're filming our naked neighbors downstairs. Oh, wow, we can't get caught doing this. Just screaming and fumbling around it. It's very dumb. I don't think you'd be that loud.
No, stay right there. Stay right there.
A while later, they go out to film themselves lighting a firework or something. I don't think is allowed in LA, so maybe that's why they thought it was funny.
Bro! It's just not funny, man. What if that shit would have... That was Oscar.
The kid that jumped past them during this scene, his name's Oscar. Real smart kid. But for whatever reason, he decided to murder the neighbor downstairs that they just filmed. And later that night, they come up with a really great idea. I have no clue why anyone would do this. It's illegal, but it's also really morbid. They head down to the neighbor's house that was just killed. You know, an active crime scene. While down there, they notice some fairly strange things, like the refrigerator just padlocked closed for some reason. And the place is in a weird state of disrepair. Been left neglected, it's kind of dirty everywhere. While walking around, they get a bit of a spook, though, when they hear a baby crying.
Here, Hector, get your phone.
Going further through the house, they find this closet, which has some videotapes in it that seem to be the tapes from the second movie. I don't know how they got a hold of them, but you do see Katie and Christy's name or something, like a birthday party or something. I don't know how it ties in. I couldn't really follow with the story.
Old school tape. Katie and Christy.
That wasn't my little brother. What about that?
After being freaked out, they head out of the house, but they managed to grab this weird witchy book on their way out. So now we have another brilliant idea by these youngsters. And they decide, we're gonna bring this girl over. Let me figure out her name. Marisol? The girl and the dudes decide to do a ritual that's a part of this book. I don't know why you'd do this, especially when Jesse's grandma is like super oh, no, bad, mal, no. We get our first creepy moment, like ghosty moment, after they do the ritual in this old church. Now, of course, after you've done some weird demonic ritual and you hear bumps in the middle of the night, you have to go track down their origin. Why wouldn't you? The next day, the main kid in the film, he talks about how he's had this weird dream about witches at this old farmhouse or something. And we even noticed that he has a bite on his arm, which kind of stood out because it was so early on in the film. The next section of the film is actually kind of entertaining. They play on this, like, toy that they had in the closet. They do it in a really interesting way where they're kind of communicating with the demon.
Oh, do you think Hector is stupid?
Oh!
Is Jesse handsome?
Ask it something that you know it'll say no.
Is Hector black? Am I holding the Ace of Hearts?
Oh, God.
We then head over to the two guys getting done playing basketball. Afterwards, they get, like, I guess these, like, two Cholo fellas. Is that right to say? Essays? I don't give a f. They try to, like, rob them. The kid just suddenly does this.
Just chill, man. Let me check out the backpack. I don't have anything, man. Hey,
For quite a while after this, he's kind of exploring these newfound superpowers that he has. I mean, who wouldn't?
Dude, all right, here, just get the camera. All right, fool, hold on. Are you ready? What are you doing? What? Go!
Now that our lead has demonic superpowers, he has this huge boost in confidence. So they go to this party and meet some girls and take them home. But of course, since Jesse lives with his grandmother and father, where would they take these fine ladies other than the crime scene downstairs? The girl gets scared by this arm reaching up at her. Jesse runs downstairs. Now she's not there. The reason he wasn't there is because he had to go get a condom. Him and his friends go check down there in the little hatch, this weird hidden hatch in their apartment. And he notices some weird witchcraft altars with pictures of him when he was a kid on there. a bit concerning. All the kids then go around trying to figure out what exactly is affecting Jesse. They're talking to like Oscar's older brother, and he tries to tell them what Oscar found out. The witches are turning all these children into vessels for demons or something. Jesse continues to get more and more strange. I guess when the vessels, like, are ready for the demon, slowly lose themselves or something. The family, or the grandma, tries to do some anti-demon magic on him, kind of like the first film, or second film. This doesn't work out, though, because a minute or two later, he just kills his grandmother. It got really hard to follow at this point into the movie, due to the jumping around at random, and almost non-linear storytelling. I feel like there's a whole plot of them being able to travel through time, or jump to different dimensions or some shit that I didn't quite pick up on. I just thought that these were movies about demons, but it's more complex than that. The kids knock Jesse out with a bat. Somehow, you know, he was able to fight guys off with magic powers, couldn't be hurt, but now he can be knocked out with a bat. They put him in the back of the car because they're going to take him somewhere to try to save him from the demon. During this, their car just gets smacked by an SUV full of witches, and they take him out of the car and steal him. The kids see no other option than to go after him and save him, so they enlist Oscar's older brother. We get probably one of the most fun scenes in all of Paranormal Activity. Oscar's older brother and a friend are just loaded with guns, like an MP5 and shotgun, and they head over to the farmhouse where the witches are at to go save Jesse. I never watched this film until now, so I was caught off guard pretty hard when this happens. When the Mexican fellas just started shooting old ladies with shotguns, I didn't really follow what happened next because I was too busy kind of laughing while writing notes. It was good. I did not expect old women to get blasted by shotguns in a demon movie, but I also didn't expect weird interdimensional hopping either, so. Jesse's two friends, the girl and Hector, make it into the house, but Hector ends up filming a bunch of spooky demon like a goat's head on a pentagram and such. The girl goes missing or something. Hector hides in a closet for a while. After getting out of the closet, he gets chased upstairs by Jesse. So now that he's in this room, there's only one option, and that's the weird door with the doorknob in the middle of it, and the funky demonic symbols or witch symbols. I don't know how I'm going to explain the ending of this. So Jesse's tearing down the door. He goes through this magic door, and I don't understand. So I'm just going to show it to you. Teleports to the house in the first movie with Mika and Katie. It's the night where Mika gets killed.
Excuse me. Excuse me. I need your help, please. What the fuck?
I don't know how we got here, but that was Paranormal Activity 5, the marked ones. It was funnier than I expected. I feel like the dialogue and general things that happen throughout the film, at least for the first, like, 2/3 of the movie, it is fun. There are a few positives about the film, but even though shooting witches in the ending was actually kind of like, what the hell? It didn't make sense for a giant chunk of the end of the movie. I most certainly did not expect the movies to go in this direction, but I guess we have to move on to the worst movie of the franchise, because this isn't it. This is actually probably a top 3 or top 4 movie in all of them. So we're moving on to the worst now. Paranormal Activity 6, The Ghost Dimension. I do not know how to explain the story up to this point, as you could hell. But we are back to the mainline story, which I'm guessing the fifth one does tie into. Somehow Hector got Mika killed or something. The movie begins with us seeing Christy and Katie as kids on videotape. The grandma's like training them to become followers of the demon or something. That happens for a bit until we meet the family that the movie focuses on.
We love Mike.
Hey!
Hey.
You remember Skylar, right? How are you? I haven't seen you in forever.
Yeah.
What if you... Nice.
This movie is now taking place in 2013. At first, I actually thought it was going to be a good movie because it started off pretty promising. I liked the characters that were introduced, especially the brother. Let's talk about them. So we have the father, the mom, and the daughter. And then we have the brother who's coming and staying with them because he just went through a breakup or something. And some random blonde lady who's there. I don't know why she's there.
Great job.
There's a string of lights in that box over there.
This box?
Yeah.
This is just cock.
What?
It's cock.
I really like cock jokes in movies and TV and games. I'm not even being sarcastic. This is why I thought the movie would be good. The brother has a fun personality, and he made a cock joke. Am I gonna put a picture of a cocking tube up? Yeah, with the funny brother and the cute blonde girl, I thought that we were gonna have a good movie in store, but that wasn't until I figured out what the main gimmick of this movie was.
Oh.
That must be from the people who used to live here.
There's tapes in here too, man.
What?
From outer space.
It's probably just old.
Bizarre. So weird.
I don't understand why this was a thing. Like, I get it story-wise. Camera's magical and can see ghosts. The biggest problem I have with it, though, whatever they did with the quality, it's rough to watch. Though, like, more than I'd say 3/4 of the film is shot with this piece of camera. I don't like it. I actually skipped through the movie to see if the movie was shot in it because I was going to give up on this whole idea when I saw it. That's how bad it is. I feel so terrible for all the people that went to the theaters and watched this movie. They even go on to explain how magical and great this camera is, even though it has flip phone level quality. Let's speed this movie up. The gimmick camera can see the spirit dimension, and they live in a house that's like either modeled or the same house that the people lived in Paranormal Activity 3, an actual good film. Because of that, they find the old tapes that the family had, even though they were meant to be in the fifth. I don't get it. But they have access to these tapes. The dad and the brother kind of watch through them while their own house is being haunted and such. The big boob lady and brother kind of have a thing going on that never happens, which is really lame. The daughter gets possessed by a demon thing that's constantly shown on camera throughout the entire movie. I don't know why the stylistic choice to put the demon on camera all the time was made. Doesn't work. Like, do you remember how creepy the moment is when they have footprints in the house in the first movie, and they lead up to the bed, and they're not going anywhere else, but the demon's invisible, so you're like, is it in the room with them? That's scary. This thing in this movie. Not scary. They set up, cameras at other cameras at some point. They can't see the demon, only one can. The daughter starts getting possessed by a demon. A random portal opens up in the house for some reason. They got to get the daughter exorcised and stuff. Like, I don't want to talk about this movie. This is a awful, 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 awful movie. I don't know if I've ever seen a movie this bad, because this is, I do not like it. I've never been more serious in my life. This is top 10 worst movies I've ever seen, ever. There is like one cool moment that I kind of like.
Tell me.
You're making so much noise.
I'm making too much noise? Daddy will go up and make sure everything's... Hush. Okay. What the...
Wait, Ryan, did you...
Like, the old videos have Christy talking about seeing the future of this family and stuff. So that was it's cool. As I said, I could barely finish this movie, so let's just jump around. They get a priest over, and he tries to, in his words,
we need an extermination.
But it ends up being a really dumb scene that just makes it even worse.
Father? Get back!
So they get the demon in the Star of David, and it looks really stupid. Then everything's fine. 4 months later, shows up on the screen, and they're moving into a different house. It could be the same house as the fourth movie. I don't really know or care. We for some reason see the little girls, Katie and Christy from the past there. We then get a weird birthday shot that is identical to the third movie for some reason. I don't get what's going on. I don't get this movie. Didn't like it. Time travel in different dimensions, I guess. I hope you forgive me, but this is an impossible to watch movie. None of the other movies are great by any means, but this hits a new peak of terrible. I didn't go into these expecting some weird, long-winded, convoluted storyline, like tracing between all the films about demons and either. I just thought that they were gonna be fun, like haunted house kind of movies with found footage, and it slowly kind of beat me down. No clue. Moving on to the seventh film, though. The final Paranormal Activity movie, which probably is the last movie, who knows? This movie completely changes things, like I said the fifth did, but no, this is an entirely new storyline. It's just kind of a one-off film. It almost feels like they used the Paranormal Activity name on top of this movie just to maybe get more eyes to it. They probably figured they could beat that dead horse a little more. But this was 5 years after that awful movie that we just talked about. It actually turns out that disregarding everything stupid about the last 6 films and doing your own thing can work out pretty well, though. I'm just really glad we got away from the whole Toby thing. The movie begins with our main character, Margot, which I think is the same name as the chick in the other one. No, that's Marisol. She's making a documentary about reuniting with her family because she's adopted because her mom got rid of her and she's Amish or some shit. She says she took a 23andMe test and somehow one of her cousins that was Amish left the community recently and he also took one, enabled her to message him and meet up with him. So we pick up with her going and meeting him. He's awkward. Kind of funny. And he says that he'll take her to the Amish community so she can film this documentary. The scene of them heading out to go do that really threw me for a loop, though. The movie was released in 2021, and due to that, we get a strange scene of them having masks on their face that just felt really weird to me. I kind of forgot about the whole thing. I tried to stuff all that trauma down. I wasn't traumatized by the violence itself. That didn't bother me whatsoever. It was how insane everyone acted during that time. Thank you for reminding me of that movie.
So you didn't think to call ahead and let them know we were coming?
They're Amish, dude. They don't have a phone.
Oh.
There's some dialogue while they're at a hotel or something getting ready to go meet the Amish people where Margot's like, I don't even know why I'm making this movie. The whole idea of it seems really self-indulgent, yet she still does it. I found that to be okay, man.
Dale, you don't fit on the bed.
Oh, yeah. I'm used to it. I sleep on a full at home.
Why do you sleep on a full? You're like 6'7".
I share a room with my mom, and she
You
takes the
sleep
queen, and
with
I'm
your
on a
mom?
full. Yeah. She lives with me, so I don't, yeah.
I have a feeling that this guy, this tall dude, is going to be the comedic relief for this film, and I like it. I like him. Every time he said something weird, even though, yeah, it was meant to be funny, it really was funny. So good job. After getting to the Amish community, they're allowed to stay and film for a few days. Regardless, the girl learns, Margot, is that her name? She learns that her mother's no longer at this community anymore, which totally won't be a central plot point. We then get my favorite line of dialogue in any Paranormal Activity movie.
There's pigs.
Okay. Do they all have, like, how do I say this, like nice butts like that?
Hey, you guys want to see the loft?
Excuse me. This had me dying. It was just so extremely unexpected, even though the guy has said weird shit already. Like, first he talks about sleeping in the same room as his mother. I mean, living with your mother, like, especially the way he says it, like, she lives with him. But sleeping in the same room? Now you're talking about pig ass. Pig butt. Pig booty. I suppose having an absolute creep in your movie does make it more interesting, and I dig it. For the next long while in the movie, our characters mostly go around, like, kind of filming the Amish people and interviewing them, asking them questions, just trying to learn more about them, trying to figure out who her parents were and such. As it turns out, her mother had a baby with a guy outside the community, which they call Englishmen. That didn't really sit right with the community, so they were going to, like, excommunicate her and give the baby to what they call, like, an already established couple in the community. She didn't like this, so she ran off and gave the baby away. Before we move past that, though, I want to talk about how refreshing this movie is compared to the last 6. I don't think I would have been so in awe of it if it weren't for how bad some of the other movies were. Going away from having cameras set up in stationary places and having characters actually walk around with a camera and actually try to film something in a decent way. Just having tight shots and like actual good scenes and camera work in this movie make it feel so much better. It actually adds a bit of tense, like several tense moments to the film and makes it more engaging in total. I really like that they went a different direction. It's not groundbreaking by any means, but I did just watch 6 Paranormal Activity movies and like over the course of 2 days, so I'm going to give this one some props where they're due. Having said that, let's get back to the movie.
I like your doll. What's her name?
Sarah.
That's a pretty name.
Thanks.
You know, that was my mom's name. She used to live here a long time ago.
He's still here.
What did you say?
He doesn't like you.
Who doesn't like me? Wait,
So up until this point, the characters never really had any reason to believe that the mom or anything was still there or anything weird was happening. They have been hearing some kind of weird noises out in the barn and some creepy stuff and the floor above them. Later that night, the noises finally bother them, especially after hearing the little girl be creepy, and the girl Margot decides to go upstairs and check it out. Here we actually get a fairly intense scene when she's kind of digging around, finding stuff from her mother, until this happens.
Hello?
So while up there, not only did the bed get laid on by a ghost or whatever the hell it was, she found evidence that not everything she's been told about her mother is true, and also got a weird ghost figure in the window. That was kind of scary. Now with all these weird inconsistencies and spooky stuff happening, she doesn't think, oh, I should leave, this is scary. She tells the other characters, she's like, I have a weird feeling in my stomach that my mom's still here, and she wants to stay and snoop around and figure out what's going down.
Sweet nicht weiter. Anyone speak German?
This is a house of worship. It's off limits to you, no cameras.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So while out exploring, they find that church, which very obviously has cryptic writing on it. It's in German. I don't know exactly what it says, but it's something to the effect of like no further or like don't go past this point. Some time passes and they keep hearing weird noises at night, so they go out to the barn to actually check what's going on.
It's starting to spread.
I know.
We have to do it now.
Let's get it all straight now. You saw a 2-headed baby goat, them talking about something spreading, and that they should do it now, whatever that is, cryptic as f. And they still want to hang around and get to the bottom of it. I'd personally, I'd be like, hey, let's get out of here. We have a car. They're Amish. There's no way their horse and buggy's going to catch us. The next day, they're left alone for some reason with just the cousin guy, Sam, or whatever his name is, Samuel. He's pretty adamant about them just leaving everything alone and just kind of minding their own business. They don't follow that advice. Instead, they come up with a plan to distract Samuel so they can go back to that church and check it out. When arriving to the church, they notice that there's a bunch of weird demonic symbols, like symbolism on the ground, even going so far as to show a ritual, like a sacrifice, human sacrifice on it. I get it's a horror movie, but this is just another reason to get the hell out of there. Instead of turning around, what do? So the characters push that out of the way and they find a weird mine tunnel with blood in it that looks like where they dumped off the sheep for something to eat down there. There's a demon called Asmodeus, who's like a prince of hell, and human sacrifice printed around the hole. You don't turn around and run. No, there's like a strap thing that they'd wear, like to use as a pulley to put somebody down there. So the girl puts it on. She's like, I'm going down there to check it out. Psychopath.
Hey, there's something down here. A room.
Hey, Chris, I'm done. Pull me up. Chris? Hey, pull me up.
This scene actually like genuinely scared me. It's not because I'm claustrophobic or I'm actually scared of whatever's down there. It's just horror movie stuff. But the idea of I don't like heights and having something underneath your feet that you can't see bothers me. I don't like the ocean and I don't like heights for very similar reasons. Heights is more about dying, but not being able to see below you scares me. It's probably the only scene that genuinely gave me a bit of like, I don't like this, so bravo. Luckily, the girl ends up making it out. Instead of just coming to the realization that they should all leave, like coming into contact with a ghost, you're miles away from civilization, the people are strange, there's a sickness spreading, there's a weird church where human sacrifice happens, and a demon at the bottom of the well. They decide to snoop around some more. After finding this computer, which is in an Amish guy's closet, you get evidence that they purposefully sought her out to bring her there for whatever reason. They finally decide to get out of Dodge. But guess what? The car won't start. I think maybe overnight a demon attacked the girl or something too. That's not good. So the boyfriend guy and the weird pig butt guy go into town to get a new car battery for their van. During this, they run across a postal service worker who kind of gives them a warning. Anyway, while at the mechanic shop, wherever you buy car batteries, they decide to look up on the internet on the guy's computer and learn a bunch of about demons, and I'll just show you it because I don't remember everything.
The Norwegian village of Beskider was beset by a pestilence. It was believed to be the work of the demon Asmodeus. It is said the witch trapped the demon inside a chosen woman of God, her body a holy vessel to ensnare the powerful entity.
With all this new information, they quickly head back, but when they get there, everything's just hit the fan. So the girl Margot and her mom are somehow these perfect vessels for this demon Asmodeus to be put into, because the demon isn't able to also possess other people and run amok in the world, screwing everything up. Instead of letting the Amish people use her as what she's meant to be and save the world from hell, the boyfriend character decides to just save Margot and let the world end, I guess. I don't really know what happens.
What are you doing? Shit. What are you doing to her? Goddamn, Margot, run! Run, Margot, run!
We get a really long chase scene after he the witch lady up and gets Margot out of there, with the creepy demon mom thing chasing after them. It goes on for a little too long. Ultimately, they miraculously get away from it and are able to start the car, where they run over an Amish guy and in the process. Just when you think that everything's all good, well, you don't really, because you know that the demon's going to possess everyone. It flashes over to some police officers showing up to the scene. Everything's kind of on fire. And all of a sudden you see Samuel kind of walk out, and he uses the force to make the police officers kind of die themselves. So yeah, the movie ends with Asmodeus driving off to wreak havoc on Earth. Happy ending. I'd say this movie was pretty interesting. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. It was a great ending to all the other films, even if it didn't tie in. And I'm glad I decided to cover it, even though I knew it wouldn't have anything to do with the previous Paranormal Activity films. It was just a good found footage movie. I thought the bleak ending was actually pretty fun. After watching all the films, I am going to go ahead and rank them and how I feel about them, since I'm not going to give them all ratings by themselves. We'll be ranking them from worst to best. We're going to start off with Paranormal Activity 6, The Ghost Dimension. That hot steaming pile of nothing about that movie is good. Then I'm thinking I'm gonna rate Paranormal Activity 4 next. That's a bad one. Let me think here. Paranormal Activity 2 probably deserves the next spot. Very rushed film. Tried to mimic this first film, but made it worse. Terrible follow-up. After that movie, I can't believe they were able to get 7 films. I think next I'm going to put Paranormal Activity 5. Even though I didn't really care for the movie, it wasn't the worst. This next spot, I don't know how I'm going to rank it. Am I going to put 3 or 7 there? I think I'm going to put Paranormal Activity 3 at 3rd place. It's a decent film in its own right. I really like the characters. The acting isn't bad. I like that it's set in a different time. Not a bad movie. I liked it. It should have been the second film in the franchise. In 2nd place, I'm going to put Paranormal Activity 7. I had a really good time watching it. It felt short, which is good when a movie passes by quickly, because it means you're just enjoying yourself. I like the actors. I like the whole Amish idea. It always felt unsettling. And the different camera work kind of saved it. And then, in the number 1 spot, of course, Paranormal Activity. The first one. No surprise here. There's a reason it started off this giant franchise. It was a massive cultural force, and it still holds up pretty well. The nostalgia factor probably gets me. I really liked watching it again. I think that's always going to be a decent movie to watch if you ever want to watch a found footage horror film. I did not expect the very last movie in the franchise, which wasn't even related to any of the others, to be my second favorite film in the whole franchise, but it was actually a really fun found footage horror movie. Watch it. I'd say the top 3 is just leagues ahead of everything else. So after watching all these movies and writing a big ass script and talking about every single one of them, I don't completely regret it. I wish some of these movies didn't exist. How the characters are traveling through different dimensions. I wish I could go to the dimension where the 4th movie and 6th movie don't exist. These movies just kind of came at the perfect time to become this big zeitgeist in found footage horror films. And I kind of appreciate what it did. There are some really good found footage movies out there. There are plenty more that are absolutely awful, but I think it was an okay thing for horror. I've never been too interested in ghost stories or demons, any of that sort. But the Paranormal Activity movies, they kind of hold up. I would never recommend anyone to watch them all in a row. But in the name of Halloween and scary movie season, the first Paranormal Activity movie and the 7th one, they're worth watching. This took a lot longer than I expected. I didn't realize at first how long it would take to watch 7 movies and write about all of them. I haven't edited these yet. I'm hoping to get this out by Halloween. Let's hope that happens. Let me know what you think about these movies down below. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, I'm probably not going to cover a franchise this large for a long time. I don't really know what I'm going to do next, but if you have any ideas, let me know. If you enjoyed the video, drop me a like and subscribe to my channel. Anyway, I'm getting out of here. I'm tired. I'll see you next time. Later.